In this series, we took the highest grossing film every year since 1980, we put them in brackets, and debated which film was the best to determine once and for all which decade had the best movies. So here's the final one. And I know
Oh
we're
God.
going to,
Trigger.
before,
Trigger alert.
before we get into number four, because we both know, I,
Are you
I,
sure?
I already know what your fourth place is. So let's go.
So much James Cameron, dude. So much
Well,
James Cameron.
there's a reason. So yeah, you got again a few different styles here, but I personally I put Endgame number one. I think it was the best. It brought an ending to the phases. I don't know. Again, 3 hours. It did not feel like 3 hours to me. Um, all the movies accumulated into this one film. It was
Hmm.
enjoyable. I still rewatch scenes. I love it. Um, and it's tough because Avatar and Batman are great, but I think Avengers Endgame was the best ending they could have done possible. And it
Hmm.
was everything about it was there was yes, you can pick apart certain things. It's a comic book movie. Enjoy it, people. But at the same
I
time,
know, right?
it was just bringing everyone together like this, even if they're only in one or two scenes. Um, yeah, and I mean, for me, I'm a Guardians of the Galaxy fan. Just that one scene with Star Lord sees Gamora again, that was like gut wrenching and heartbreaking. And I
Hmm.
love that. Everyone has different, outside of the, the Iron Man stuff, they have different scenes that they love because based on their characters. So to me, hands down, Endgame is number one. What's your
Hmm.
number one?
My number one, and this might be controversial, is gonna be Avatar. Um, Not by a lot. It really, my argument is kind of you don't need to know anything about Avatar to watch it. And I'm not sure if Avengers Endgame has that kind of thing to it, because obviously it requires you to watch 47 fucking movies to get to like everything and everything have like a payoff. Which I mean, I enjoyed the shit out of Avengers Endgame. Don't get me wrong, but Avatar as a single movie experience, I think is great. Does it have its problems? Absolutely. But I enjoyed the shit out of it. It's one of the first movies I ever bought on Blu-ray, and it was amazing. I think
Same,
God,
I
was it
think.
my PS3, because yeah, it was on Block, it was at Blockbuster, it was on sale, and it was like in one of
Yep.
our salesmen's, and I picked it up, and I still probably have that lying around somewhere. But it looks fucking gorgeous on Blu-ray, and this is a movie that came out in like what 2008, 2009, something like that, and it still translates and looks amazing. And that's my number one. And Avengers is really close number two. Again, I love the culmination. I love the moments. Obviously, I love the moment where fucking Captain America like gets Mjolnir like in his hand, and
Yeah.
it's like he's fucking worthy. Even thinking about that right now gives me goosebumps because when I first saw that, I was like, oh shit! I was like, of course he's worthy. He's like the most worthy character, in this entire fucking universe, right? And so I loved it. I loved Avengers Endgame, but I just have to give the slight edge to Avatar when I'm picking those top two.
Avatar's number two for me. Yes, this
Hmm.
came out in 2009, and the 3D experience before 3D kind of made a comeback. For
Mm.
those who saw
Hmm.
it, added to it. But yeah, it was again James Cameron. Just everything was a
Yeah.
spectacle, and it was enjoyable. It wasn't again another
Hmm.
movie where the length you did not feel like you're watching a long movie. Um,
No.
so yeah, Avatar to me was number two. Batman, as pain as it says, was number three. I mean, another great film, but
Yeah.
compared to Avatar and Avengers, it just, you know, it just does not hold up. It just can't, and for its time, Jack Nicholson was a great Joker.
Oh, it was
Uh,
awesome, dude.
Michael Keaton was a great Batman, but again, I think we've seen those characters evolve in different ways compared to what it was then. Um, and Batman was great, and easily
And it
number
was the
three
first time he was like dark looking. Like, you know what I mean? Like we've grown up with
with
like,
the Adam
you
West
and I
one.
talked, right? You and I talked about it the other day. He's like fighting a shark on a helicopter, and then the shark falls in the ocean, explodes.
Yes,
Um, that movie's I don't think it's below 50%. But anyways,
it's
it was the
not.
first time we saw, first time we saw it kind of dark, and it was a different take on it. There's Prince stuff in this. Like Prince did the soundtrack. It's good. Tim Burton directed it as well. For anybody who's curious, is one of Tim Burton's like movies. So Tim Burton doing a superhero movie, and it's got a lot of Tim Burton tropes. It's got Danny Elfman soundtrack, and I remember watching this as a kid and absolutely loving it. Um, And so yeah, I can't put it above the first two, but absolutely a great movie, especially for superhero movies and comic movies. I think that this first Batman was really that first window of when people were like, "Oh shit, this could be viable. This could be done well."
And obviously, our last one is Phantom Menace.
Are
Now,
you sure?
do, do you want to get into this or just be like, nope, this movie's shit and move on? Because we could do a whole episode of just Phantom Menace one day. You know,
Yeah, we will.
I think we
It'll be a
should, but
Soto and Chad episode one, just
I,
full review.
we're not going to get into this. If you haven't seen it, it is shit. I know there are some people who actually
It's
enjoy
dog
it.
shit.
It is
It's
dog
dog
shit.
shit.
It is really big dog shit.
Should never have been done.
Nope, but it was. And I think this is something we're going to have to talk about later. But yeah, it's
Hmm.
51%. We might have to cheat on this one. I think we might have to. But
Disgusting.
I know. But anyhow, I agree. Endgame and Avatar easily the top two. Batman
Hmm.
definitely a good third. But yeah, no way. Phantom Menace. This is the worst film. I'd rather watch Spider-Man 3 than Phantom Menace. And
There are
that's
a lot
saying
of
a lot.
things I'd rather do than watch Phantom Menace, like other things that I might not like doing, like cleaning and stuff like that. I would rather do that than watch the Phantom Menace. But again,
I
we'll
think
save
I
that
think
for
we're gonna
later.
say I think we're gonna save this for
Hmm.
another day. But
Hmm.
here's the funny thing: if you look at our poll, there was a movie. I hate to
Wow.
say it. Yeah, Avatar's fourth.
Have you people not seen Avatar? Huh. Well, it's interesting that people would be all about the Batman with Michael Keaton, but then again, there is a big Tim Burton fan base, so that's cool.
Hmm.
But
I
you're
can
saying
understand that a
that
little
the
bit.
Phantom Menace is better than Avatar. Like if that's your perspective, it's fine. It's valid and that's cool. But you and I will never see eye to eye on things ever in life. That's just ridiculous.
So I'm gonna throw this nugget out there for you because this will come up later. Because maybe
Hmm.
if we do a podcast, maybe we'll have him join us. Madness likes the film.
Oh,
Even
madness, how? Well, you know what? That's fine. I get there are fans of the prequels, which we've been talking about this whole entire this whole entire podcast. There are fans of the prequels, and that's fine. But allow me to retort and say that this is dog shit. Just allow me to say that. That's all. So, and I love Madness, and I think that'd be a great idea because maybe it'd be like a therapy session where I bring Madness into reality. Um, but you know, I'm sorry, agree to disagree, and it breaks my heart.
I know. So if we add everything together, um,
Hmm.
we both agree from first to fourth for the most part. And you'll see why there's the most part. There was a tie for me. So our number one for our personal picks, and number one if you combine them is the 1990s. It got
What a
33.
shocker!
Weirdly enough, it got 33 points from both of us. Like we both, based. I know there's a little bit difference, but at the end, it both got 33 points.
Hmm.
Um, our second place for both of us is the 80s. It scored 27 for me and 29 for you. So,
Hmm.
but still combined, it's there. Third place is the 2010s, which we both actually scored at 20. So,
Really?
yes. And then fourth is the
Oh,
2000s, which I also had at 20, but you had at 18. So, there was that those couple points put 2000s last. But the
dark
audience,
time.
if I add in everything,
Hmm.
audience had 1990s first. They
Cool.
had the
Cool.
2000s second.
Ooh,
They
sorry,
had the
guys.
80s third, and the 2010s were last. So even if you
Ooh.
combine theirs, it is the same. The score stays the same. But I did ask one last poll, which ended earlier today, just
Hmm.
without clarification, which decade? And everyone, 80s won. But based on the votes that we had in
Wow.
all ours pass polls and what people put, anyone that ranked them, I actually added in. 90s won, and don't get. But a lot of people,
Wow.
I think, have love for the 80s. They just think 80s were better, and maybe some other movies were, that weren't on this list because I know we only looked at like the highest grossing and stuff like that. But yeah,
I don't know, guys. You rewatch those movies, and yet, we've had in our Rotten Taste, episodes. We watched a lot of the movies from the '80s, and they're not as good as you remember sometimes.
no, I think there it's. very nostalgic to some people. And there are some good 80 films, and I think we might revisit this concept using different
Mm-hmm.
criteria. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, maybe like a best picture or like best year. We'll see. We got a lot, but
Hmm.
based on the highest, grossing in the U.S., hands down, both of ours, even when you combine them, but even both of us separately agreed 1990s had the best films. And we agreed because that's at the time when the movie theater experience was at its height. Special
Yeah.
effects were really coming to, because what
Mm-hmm.
Jurassic Park, Independence Day, Titanic. And again, there's nothing wrong with some of the other films. I just think 90s just had it all. It was like we said in the beginning, the rise of the independent. There was just so much more going on before home theater, DVDs.
The
I don't know.
internet, streaming.
Yeah, all that
We
shit.
had there was nothing else like asking for our time, and so a lot of us watched these movies because there was nothing else going on. We
And
didn't
they
have
had to
cell
make good
phones.
movies. They had to make good movies to get our attention. So
Right.
and it's like today you just see random shit on Netflix or Tubi or Amazon, and you're like,
Yeah.
how the fuck did they make this? But either
Mm-hmm.
way, yeah. So no,
Love the
based on just
90s.
me and you though, and even if you had an audience score, 1990s was voted number one. And then yeah, we had 80s as second. And there's a lot of good 80s films, but to me, yeah, I think that's right. I would agree 1990s was the best decade of films. Um,
Yeah.
you might have some personal picks, other people might have some favorites in other decades, but if you look at it from top to bottom, it's hard to deny what the 90s were movie wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So, any other last things you want to add, Soto, before we end this?
No, I mean this is great. I love it. I'd love to do, some extra stuff too. I'd love to kind of explore some more Phantom Menace. Got some thoughts on that. And also kind of take a look to see, which directors kind of had, we kind of touched on it with Spielberg and Cameron, but I know Robert Zemeckis had some good hits too. So maybe potentially talk about that in the future. But yeah, I think that there's a lot that we can still unpack decade by decade. I think that this is a nice, first step in that, and can't wait to see what we do next.
Yep. We're going to talk Phantom Menace. It's happening.
Oh my God, no! I have to watch it again.
Maybe for
That's
May
yeah.
4th, Star Wars Day.
Okay, all right. That's definitely on the
Maybe.
table. That's for sure.
We'll talk about it. But anyhow, yeah, that's
Mm.
it for us. That's all the highest grossing films. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. Let us know what were your favorites, what you think of the rankings. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's been fun.